you, it's for me, but you get to listen to it, which is really pretty cool. Because this particular piece of music is about you, kind of, well, hopefully about none of you, but it's about some audience members. Because I've traveled a lot, I've been wandering around this weird country for about 11 or 12 years doing this Renaissance Fair thing, and something I've noticed no matter what state I go to, no matter where I wind up, it's that 99% of the audiences are like yourselves. Kind, giving, caring, wondrous, generous folks who just want to like hang out, listen to some cool nerdy music, and have a good time. However, there is another group of people that come to the fair that are far and away the worst human beings I've ever met in my entire life. And rather than release them and forget about them, as my therapist will repeatedly insist is the healthy choice, I have chosen instead to immortalize them in a piece of music, which I can play for you. I mean, if you want. Woo! Woo! Yeah! All right, we're going to round that up to an enthusiastic quorum. There's a child in the back of my audience who's singing along. But I don't recall writing any screaming into this particular song. Now I know you don't speak English and I know you're only 3. You're not my target market, so you're not gonna tip me. But please, as a favor, do all your screaming in the key of C. Mom, I want a sword. Mom, I'm bored and this guy sucks. Thanks, kid. Now I don't mean to be a jerk, but don't give me that I'm sorry smirk. Now I know I'm ancient history and it's hard to take me seriously, but some of us out here are trying to work. There are 2 lovely ladies in my crowd in the very first row. The very, 4th row. And one is loudly saying to the other something that she absolutely needs to know. Look, I'm sure it's a good story, and I'm sure you tell it well. I'm sure that your ex-husband should truly go to hell, and I'm sorry if my singing makes the story a little hard to tell. Oh, Molly, they're having a baby. They named it Northwest, and that was our name. It's a pop culture reference. Keep the children paying attention. I don't mean to be a snob, but please shut your yapping gob. Now I know this concept's puzzling, but I don't come to Burger King and shout while you're trying to do your job. Ow! I usually get no snap from the back there, but my back. Oh, yeah! I know I seem cool, calm, and collected. A musician who's trying to make an honest buck. In my brain, I am screaming. Crying out loud. Definitely out of age. Oh, the wheels on the bus go round. Now there's a man to the side of my stage. He's got a beer in his hand. And he's shouting racist jokes and these sexist little comments. Look, I just don't understand. And now I know you think you're funny. Everybody loves a fool. If you tell another good one, all your friends will think you're cool. But your wife, your kids, and my audience just think, you're a tool. Whatever. And now you made me really, really mad. And not just because the jokes are very, very, very bad. Getting drunk for my 10:30 show might have worked for you 20 years ago. But now look at your life. You're a freaking dad. So if you want to rant, rave, and curse, or maybe mumble for a phone in your purse. Now, I don't really have a limit. I mean, the song could be 10 minutes, therefore, you could have your very own specialized and customized verse. Thank you. Clap better. No, it's kidding. You guys are good. Please don't clap better. Oh, man. This is so fun. I haven't done this in a long time. I'm sorry if it seems, you're gonna get a Russ knockoffy show. I had one show at 11:30, and at the end of it, I was winded, which is so embarrassing to admit, especially if you're following Fairly Balanced, where I stepped off the stage like, oh boy, woof, all that singing, ugh, so much cardio. Whereas for these guys, they could run 10 miles and still be able to do my set. Well, not Jimmy. And they're still back there doing their thing, so I'm gonna roast them a little bit because they don't have mics anymore, I don't think. So Jimmy. Okay, there we go. But this is fun because it's like I forget what this is like because in Chicago I work for comedy theaters and I work like indoors firstly, and I work in the dark. and it's Renaissance fairs are unique. There's like no real show like this, and there's no real place where the audience expectation is at all like this. Because the reality of this job is if you guys don't like what I'm doing, and maybe in a few minutes you won't like what I'm doing anymore, you can just stand up and walk away. Right? Like that doesn't exist anywhere else in theater. You usually don't, like it's kind of taboo, you wait until intermission. But here, you get an instant visual confirmation if people do not like you and they do not like what you're doing. And at first,
should walk away.
Hey, okay, this guy right here, go back to college. I don't know why, that was a bad burn. What just happened?
He threw a mousetrap at you.
Did somebody hear a very loud noise?
It's on your pants.
Who did that?
The back of your pants.
Come out here. I want you to look at what... I want you to look at what you just did.
Keep it.
So this is, yeah, oh, it's staying, for sure. By the way, there's a mousetrap show at 4:30.
Now.
Yep. At 4:30, there's a mousetrap show. It's probably this. I can't imagine it's going to be better than what just happened. But, yeah, so as I was saying, the audience expectation is totally different here, and I love it because when I was a younger performer and I cared so much more about audience interaction, and I would watch people stand up and walk away from my set, I would be like, no, please, I've worked so hard to write these funny nerdy songs and you don't like me. And as time went by, I realized that a lot of people walk away. Like there's just so many people who just are like, yeah, I'm not into that, and that's cool, but all it's ever done is slowly but surely made me not care about any of you. Hooray! Okay, no, I'm sorry. That's not exactly true, but it's just so much weirder. It's such a weird environment to do comedy because we'll do shows up in Chicago and people are like, oof, tough crowd, right? I'm like, no. Tough crowd is one where they're all very drunk talking in the third row, and then like when you try to be like, hey, I'm trying to do a show, they tell you off and then walk away from your show. That's a rough crowd. You guys are so great though. I love that you're attentive. You're just so attentive. I made up a new word. So attentive listening to me talk about how bad other audiences are. But you didn't come here to hear me talk about audiences. You came to hear me talk about, I don't know, nerd stuff probably. Or you're just here on accident waiting for Barely Balanced because they're an hour from now and you want to save a good seat. Oh, the mousetrap fell off. All right, I'll leave this over here. This thing. I don't need any more mousetraps. Thank you. I've met my quota for probably the year. Do you guys want to hear another song?
Yeah.
How many of you think you're nerds? Please raise your hand if you think you're a nerd. All right, fantastic. Good work. Yes. I'm not surprised. Also, for those of you who are like, I didn't raise my hand, I'm not a nerd. You're at a medieval festival right now. So your foot is in the door, okay? So you're not like, you don't get to be like, I'm not a nerd. What? Because you came to like the place we go to hang out. So you're part of it. David Attenborough would say you're like invading our natural territories. But I have written a song that, to the best of my waking knowledge, is like a 30-year-old white dude, summarizes the entirety of nerd culture. Does anyone want to hear this piece of music?
Yes.
Great. I mean, I'm going to play it, but once again, trying to avoid as many people walking away from me as possible. All right, here we go. Gary Gygax had some kids, and so in like 1966-ish, he made a way to entertain, and he called it it's called a role-playing game. That's Dungeons and Dragons. Please raise your hand if you've ever heard of Dungeons and Dragons. Fantastic. Okay. On top of that, we went to space. Please raise your hand if you've ever heard of space. Just checking to see what's kind of happening out there. These two events do correlate from Apollo 11 and Dragon's Blue, a brand new subset of people group. Okay, so for the sake of levity and brevity and getting back to my rambling stories about audience members, I'm going to do the remaining 49 years of nerd culture in just a little bit under 3 minutes, okay? So I watched a lot of Animaniacs as a kid, and I was also forced to listen to nothing but Gilbert and Sullivan until I was 12 years old. So that's where this patter song nonsense comes from. Here we go. The moon landing was televised, so movies had to capitalize. Close Encounters, Superman, Moonraker, and Alien. Suddenly it's kinda neat to study space and be a geek. Kids are swapping G.I. Joes for Obi-Wans and 3POs. So the 70s were sci-fi, did fantasy just fail? Have you ever heard of Monty Python and the Holy Grail? But that's just a dumb satire, doesn't matter, nerds were right, cause people loved a movie about King Arthur and his knights. Now the 80s brought us brand new themes of super robot death machines, tears and rain. Where is she, dead or alive? You're coming with me. Things only got much nerdier in Lady Hawk and Highlander, Conan Raiders, E.T. Henson. Oh my God, David Bowie. I'm sorry. Hold on. Let me look it up. David Bowie. The effects were just so fake though, but wait though, for Tron, audiences freaking thanks to geeks and polygons. So now those kids from 66 who used to roll a die are all grown up and finding jobs creating CGI. Now critics said nerd films were a trend. They're sort of avant-garde and strange. That normal folks won't care about fantastic worlds, but then came video games. Alright, yeah. Star Fox brought us 3D flights, Doom brought 3D firefights. What started out as Joust and Pong became Earthbound and Donkey Kong. Filled that crazy fantasy of fully 3D D&D. Elder Scrolls, Planescape, Diablo 1, Baldur's Gate. Computer prices dropping means one for every house. So more folks spend their evenings playing games and geeking out. And plus this brand new series of tubes that we call the internet has us starting petty arguments with nerds we've never met. Okay, now the 2000s have come along and these studios make money on that ever-blurring line between reality and fantasy, so crazy things start happening as the Oscar goes to Return of the King. Kids who read those books in school are thinking, wait, we're kind of cool. A brand new trend emerges as Sin City hit its mark. All these superhero movies that get really freaking dark. Do you see what I'm getting at? Do I need to sing this whole damn thing again? No, I will blow all of your collective minds with all of the highest grossing movies since 2010 and up until about 2015, because this song is really difficult to update. Transformers, giant robots, the Avengers, and Age of Ultron. You got the Hobbit trilogy and Guardians of the Galaxy, Harry Potter, Dark Knight Rises. I think now you'll realize Iron Man. Okay, I know, I mean even Frozen. I'm so sorry, that gets crazy stuck in my head. All these films you see, they're based on things that us nerds were into first, like 30 years ago or so. We're used to being bullied because our taste is just the worst. We're mocked for liking wizards and space and role-playing online. So I'd like to take this chance to say that we were right the whole damn time. Confused but happy. I'll take it. I play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons. Thanks. See you guys later. Hell yeah. I play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, and you guys want to know something fun that happened to me this winter? And it's only fun to me, and probably to none of you. But I was walking through a Whole Foods, also very cool. And there at the front of this Whole Foods, there were a bunch of people sitting and playing a tabletop RPG. And I was like, oh, that's exciting. I love this stuff. I love nerd things. What are you guys doing? They're playing D&D. I approach. I notice they have like a warlock and a bard and a wizard, and I'm like, what's going on? You guys are all squishy backline casters. Where's your fighter? They're like, we don't have a fighter. He just quit the game. And I sat down and rolled up a character, and now every week I play D&D in a Whole Foods. And the best part about this game is, even if you haven't played Dungeons & Dragons, you know what two things are going to be in Dungeons & Dragons. There will be dungeons and there will be dragons, right? And you will presumably fight and explore. Maybe you can kind of infer that. But our game should just be called Foraging and Cooking. Because these are all Whole Foods employees who play on their days off, and me, for some reason. And we just do things like, they sit around going, I like to forage for root vegetables. This is a subtropical climate, right? Chult, subtropical, excellent. Well, I'm going to look for something like a radish, but I'd like it to, I don't know, something with a leafy frond I can use for maybe a salad. And the DM rolls, and yes, sure enough, you can find that, and then we make food, and we cook the food, and we eat the food, and we are level 10 and level 11, and we have spells to do all this stuff for us, but we do it all manually so we can talk about food the entire session. And I can safely say it does not feel at all like Dungeons & Dragons, but I've never had more fun playing Dungeons & Dragons. Because, I don't know, there's something really fun about listening to experts talk about the thing they're good at, and listening to people who are professional, like cooks and food people, talk about where you can find vegetables, is sometimes more fun than killing another goblin. I've killed so many goblins. I've only recently learned to make a quiche. This game is very, very helpful. What was I talking about? I don't know. What are we doing? How you guys doing? How's the show?
Great.
Good. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Please keep me honest up here. I'm going to do a couple more tunes. Let's see. Something happened to me at the Bristol Renaissance Fair this year that, as far as I'm concerned, doesn't happen to people. I thought it was it was a fluke, an outlier. This sort of thing never happens. It happens in TV shows. But I was playing this song that I'm going to play for you, and a woman in the 7th row of my stage, of my audience, stood up in the middle of the bridge, and she went like this. She went, "Boo!" And I've never had that happen, and so I was totally thrown off by this, and sort of thought she was doing that Princess Bride bit, you know, with like the booing and so I sort of went, okay, and ignored her. She walks to the center aisle, begins waving her arms, so that I turn and make eye contact with her, and she goes, "You suck! Boo!" And I was so amazed that someone could like treat someone else like this. I just started laughing because, once again, in case you joined the show late, I started the show with a lovely piece about how I don't care about my audience, and that's really careless of me. But I was sort of like, okay, whatever, do what you want. And she booed for a little bit longer, and then like did kids, and walked away. And so I've been mystified ever since. I'm going to play you this song. If someone can explain to me why she booed, because it's not rare. You know, whatever. Maybe she just doesn't like the key of G or something. I chased her down, actually. I tried to find her in the fair site, but I couldn't. Because I thought it'd be really fun to anger her and have her follow me around the fair yelling boo. Couldn't find her. This is a genre of music that I invented. It's not too often you get to invent a genre of music, but I've done so. I call this particular genre of music Pantheon Rock. And Pantheon Rock is an awful lot like Christian rock, but it contains many, many more gods. And murder. So please, as this is a spiritual song, please feel free to sway back and forth, wave your arms, your lighters, your cell phones, whatever you got. Just feel the spirit as it moves into you. Through you. Okay. You light up the dark of the night in the midst of a storm. It's religious rock, you have to sing like that, very dramatic. Then you order the sun across the sky to ensure that all of your people are warm. And you sent us a sun just to punch out a Hydra. I mean, you didn't so much send him, but it came anyway. I love the way you treat mortals with sort of this passive indifference, and that's why I'll praise you for the rest of my days. And I thank you, Zeus, for not murdering my family. I want to thank you, Zeus, for never sleeping with my wife. And I know you could do it, and I let you go through with it, because you're one of 370 true gods in my life. Yeah, spiritual, right? Okay. Hera's beautiful. She's a powerful woman. She's an excellent wife. She's also your sister, and I've got a sister, so I could maybe see how that would lead to a bit of like a marital strife. And when she's not nice, you just grab Dionysus and fly down to Athens for all the booze you can buy. You drink till you're full, transform into a bull, and try to ravage some virgin Zeus. You're my kind of guy, and I thank you, Zeus, for not murdering my family. And I'll thank you, Zeus, never sleeping with my wife, and I know you could do it, and I ain't letting you go through with it, because you're one of 311. And you heard my plea. I said I couldn't make a family, and so you sent me a son, and he's just turning one, Zeus, and I'm glad this happened to me. Zeus, great news! It's my little boy's birthday. He turned 1 today. He filled up his lungs and he blew out his candle. And the cake flew all the way into the Thesean Bay. And he's already walking. He's already talking, and then he picked up my neighbor and threw him in to the sun. Now, I'm a pretty strong guy, Zeus. I mean, I'm not trying to imply Zeus, but I was just a little bit curious, and I was wondering if maybe you had, transgressed ever so slightly on some of the more specific wishes that I thought I outlined, at least relatively clearly in the chorus of the song. Okay, I wanna thank you, Zeus, for not murdering my family, but I'll thank you, Zeus, you know, for sleeping with my wife, and I knew you could do it. I'm super thrilled you went through with it, because you're one of 370 true gods. All right, I'm changing keys, and you jerks get to sing now. I wanna thank you, Zeus. He did not murder your family. I wanna thank you, Zeus. Slept with your wife once, but it's fine, I guess, and I knew you could do it. I'm super thrilled you went through with it, because you're one of 370 true gods. I guess 644 if you count all those weird Roman counterparts. Yes, you're one of 370 true gods in my spiritual riffing. Our God is an awesome God. Okay, I see why she was mad. I get it now. For a while after that show happened where I was booed for that song, I decided I was going to take that back, right? Like, you know, I didn't like being booed. I mean, I didn't like it. It was kind of weird, but it also didn't feel good. Just like instinctively, some part of you does not like being booed. And so I was like, I'm going to take it back. And I started asking my audiences to boo me after that song, which for a while was super fun. Because it's just so like, oh, now it feels great. But the problem is, like, at Bristol, there's a lot of people who see me a lot. And so I'd just be walking through the streets, entertaining someone who I've never met before, and a guy walks by and goes, hey, boo! Like, he keeps walking, and now I have to stop the song and explain the bit, because this person's like trying to figure out what's happening. Ugh. So please, I mean, I guess whatever, you can boo me if you want, I really don't care. What time is it? Does anyone have a clock of any kind? 1:51. 1:51? Nice, it's a type of booze too. Well, it's a proof. All right, so 1:51, I've got time for a couple more tunes. Let's go back to the, I'm gonna go back to the feats of agility. Yeah, you wanna see my feats of agility? Yeah. Great, hold on, here we go, check it out. Oh God, no. Oh, didn't stretch. Didn't stretch, can't step onto a table, didn't stretch. Very funny that I'm alternating on this stage with Barely Balanced. Just two acts that are, what? Who is that? Did someone woo Barely Balanced? Was it Barely Balanced themselves? Okay. It's a bit narcissistic, I think we can all agree. You missed, jerk, nerd. Yeah, he's throwing so many mousetraps at me. I don't even want to touch it. I'm going to hurt myself.
Throw it back.
No, it didn't go off. Look out. And that is why I do sports. I do a good sports. Okay, let's go back to the music. How many of you know who William Shakespeare is? Anyone ever heard of a guy named William Shakespeare? Fantastic. Okay, for those of you who are not raising your hand or just sort of don't want to do the audience participation thing, William Shakespeare was a playwright and a poet. He wrote like upwards of 35 to 37 plays, depending on who you ask. He wrote well over 200 sonnets. He wrote in a very specific meter most of the time. On the count of three, please shout out the meter William Shakespeare wrote in. 1, 2, 3. I am a pentameter. Yes, very good. Genre of music. I call it rap. And this is rap, and it's about William Shakespeare. And just like everything I do, it's essentially a collegiate lecture disguised as a piece of music. So enjoy. I'm gonna write like William Shakespeare. I'm gonna make some rhymes. Gonna make my name as the kind of college geek who is his motherfucking peak to bring Elizabethan beats into the rap game. Alright, this is where it gets real pretentious, so listen up. First thing to notice, nobody really knows how he wrote it. The golden note except the god of his globe. How could some podunk punk with no educational potency make a big damn chunk of some pro-poetic codices? Yet they say he's faking. Must be Bacon who made him, or a posthumous Marlowe created Shakespeare's greatest plays and played them up and down now, flooded town. For the queen, under the king of the innuendo, should you catch what I mean? Cause he's slipping the subtle smut, double dose of the devil meaning now. I don't mean any trouble, but each couplet's got my cutlass gleaming out of its sheath. Lear is naked on the heath, a simple recitative brings me sweet relief. Cause sword does not mean sword, hit does not mean hit. Honorific ability, natatis within the shit. So don't be scared by his words, cause they're thick and hard. You gotta look them up to get down with the bar. Come on, I gotta write like Will Shakespeare. I'm gonna make some rhymes, and I wanna write prose. Everybody knows this quote until the end of quote, until the end of time. I gotta write like Will Shakespeare. I'm gonna make my name as the kind of college geek who wins his motherfucking peak to bring Elizabethan beats into the rap game. Now, blah, blah, blah. Writing mode engaged. Yeah, I got my paper. There's nothing on it. So tell me, how will this phage? Can't even write a page, much less 30 plays and 200 sonnets. So fire on it, I'm thrilled because Will's still iconic. He's real, he's honest, and he's filled with the phonics. His abilities still instill millions of comments. Bill's filled with sheer force of will, and I want it. But back to what I was trying to write. Try again with the pen, don't intend to pretend. The end is in sight, 6 a.m. comes again. Bring in window, break in line. I'm writing for a dozen days. This ain't 12th night, cause if music be the food of love, my love's badly malnourished punchline. I give a flourish, cause no matter how hard I try to keep rhyming like Will, you know I always seem to end up with a couple extra syll. God damn it, I'm gonna write like William Shakespeare. I'm gonna make some rhymes, and I wanna write prose. Everybody knows this quote until the end of quote, until the end of time. I gotta write like Will Shakespeare. I'm gonna make my name as the kind of college geek who hits his motherfucking peak to bring Elizabethan beats into the rap game. Thank you. I hear some wooing from Barely Balanced back there, cheering for someone other than themselves for once. I just love it. They don't have mics right now, so I can do whatever I want. I can roast them like crazy. And their crowds are 30 times as big as mine, so they have to feel bad about roasting me, because they punching down. Ha, jerks. Please don't, I stay with Jimmy. Please don't hurt me, man. He wouldn't, he's a pacifist.
Arnie, is it okay that our dog's been sleeping on your bed on the floor?
Oh, yeah, that's fine. Thanks, Cam, I appreciate it. Yeah. I get kicked out for the dog sometimes. They like him more. He doesn't roast him on stage. I have time for like one more piece of music. I'm going to employ a technique that is universally hated. It's called the French ending. The French ending is what you do when you have established a rapport and the show is moving in a direction that everyone seems to really be enjoying. In this case, me doing like weird nerd music, niche stuff that's kind of cool and kind of funny. And we take that and we throw it all away and we end the show on a completely different note. So I'm going to play for you a serious and beautiful piece of music that I did not write. Is that okay? Great, because I was going to do it anyway. This song is written by a man named Richard Thompson. He's an he's an English-Irish singer-songwriter. It's called Bee's Wing, and I think it's one of the most beautiful pieces of music ever written. Fix this though, it's pretty music, not my crap. I was 19 when I came to town. They called it the summer of love. They was burning babies, burning flags, the hawks against the doves. I took a job at the steamy down on Cauldron Street. Fell in love with a laundry girl, was working next to me. Brown hair zigzagged across her face with a look of half surprise. Like a fox caught in the headlights, there was animal in her eyes. She said, young man, oh can't you see, I ain't the factory kind. If you don't get me out of here, I'll surely lose my mind. She was a rare thing, as fine as a bee's wing, so fine a breath of wind might blow her away. She was a lost child who was running wild. She said, as long as there's no price on love, I'll stay. And you wouldn't want me any other way. So we busked around the market towns and we picked fruit down in Kent. We could tinker pots and lamps and knives where'er we went. We was camping down in the Gower one time and the work was mighty good. She said we shouldn't stay for frost. I thought maybe we should. Maybe we could settle down and get a few acres dug, a fire burning in the hearth and babies on the rug. She said, oh man, you foolish man, that surely sounds like hell. You might be lord of half this world, you'll not own me as well. She was a rare thing, as fine as a bee's wing, so fine that I may crush her where she lay. She was a lost child who was running wild. She said, as long as there's no price on love, I'll stay. And you wouldn't want me any other way. We was drinking more in those days, and our tempers reached a pitch. And like a fool, I let her run with the rambling itch. Last I hear, she's living rough, way back on the Derby beat. A bottle of White Horse in her pocket and a wolfhound at her feet. And they say she even married once to a man named Romney Brown, but even a traveling caravan was too much settling down. And they say her rose is faded now, hard weather and hard booze. But I guess that's the price you pay for the chains that you refuse. She was a rare thing, as fine as a bee's wing, and I miss her more than ever words could say. If I could just taste some of her wildness now, if I could hold her in my arms today, I wouldn't want her any other way. So fine a breath of wind might blow her away. If I could hold her in my arms, I wouldn't want her any other way. Thank you. What was that? What are you talking about? Yes, we are finished right now. That's the end of the show.
And boy, oh boy, are we glad to present Robin Good and his Merry Mule.
Robin Good and his Merry Mule coming up next. Come talk to me after the show. I'll be here.